During the day, he studied the fundamental particles that make up reality itself, searching for the elusive Higgs boson in the depths of the world's largest particle accelerator. His colleagues knew him as Dr. Marcus Weber, a quiet theoretical physicist who preferred equations to conversations. But when the lights dimmed in the underground tunnels of CERN, Weber shed his academic persona and became something else entirely: NATO's most classified nuclear intelligence specialist, using the world's most sophisticated scientific equipment to analyze weapons technology that could reshape global power. For 20 years, no one suspected that the man searching for the God particle was simultaneously tracking the devil's arsenal. Welcome to Silent Legends. Before we descend into the hidden world beneath Geneva, where science and espionage intersect in ways few could imagine, tell me in the comments from which city are you watching this video today? And if you believe legends like Dr. Weber deserve to be remembered, subscribe to witness stories that time forgot, but history never will. The European Organization for Nuclear Research, known as CERN, stretches beneath the Franco-Swiss border like a vast underground city dedicated to unlocking the universe's deepest secrets. 27 kilometers of tunnels house the Large Hadron Collider, where protons race at nearly the speed of light, colliding with energies that briefly recreate conditions from the first moments after the Big Bang. Dr. Marcus Weber had worked in this scientific cathedral for 18 years, his office a cluttered sanctuary of theoretical physics journals, computer printouts covered in equations, and coffee-stained notebooks filled with calculations that few humans could comprehend. At 51, he possessed the kind of deep intelligence that manifested as quiet competence rather than academic showmanship. His colleagues respected his work on quantum field theory, his students found his lectures challenging but clear, and his superiors valued his ability to secure research grants through methodical proposals rather than charismatic presentations. Weber's daily routine was as predictable as the particle beams he helped control. He arrived at CERN each morning at 0730 hours, reviewed overnight data from the Collider experiments, attended collaboration meetings where hundreds of physicists discussed their latest findings, and spent his afternoons either teaching at the University of Geneva or working on theoretical calculations in his underground office. To anyone observing Weber's life, he appeared to be exactly what his credentials suggested: a dedicated scientist who had devoted his career to understanding the fundamental nature of reality. His apartment in Geneva was modest, filled with physics textbooks and scientific journals. His social life consisted primarily of dinners with fellow academics, conferences in various European cities, and occasional hiking trips in the Swiss Alps where he claimed the mountain air helped clarify his thinking. What none of his colleagues knew was that Marcus Weber was not his real name, and theoretical physics was only half of his true expertise. His actual identity was Colonel Marcus Zimmermann, a specialist in nuclear weapons analysis who had been recruited by NATO intelligence in 1987, during the final years of the Cold War. His cover as a CERN physicist was perfect. It provided access to the world's most sophisticated particle detection equipment, computing resources capable of modeling nuclear processes with unprecedented precision, and a legitimate reason to maintain contact with scientists from countries whose nuclear programs NATO desperately wanted to monitor. Weber's recruitment had begun during his genuine doctoral studies in theoretical physics at ETH Zurich. NATO intelligence had identified him as a candidate not because of his political views, which were typically Swiss in their neutrality, but because of his unique combination of scientific brilliance and psychological stability. The intelligence services needed someone who could operate under deep cover for decades, maintaining perfect academic credentials while using those credentials to gather information that conventional espionage could never access. The initial approach had come through Professor Heinrich Keller, Weber's doctoral advisor, who had revealed his own long-standing cooperation with Western intelligence. Keller explained that the scientific community provided opportunities for intelligence gathering that traditional spy networks could never replicate. Academic conferences brought together researchers from closed societies, collaboration agreements provided cover for technological exchanges, and the international nature of scientific research created communication channels that intelligence agencies could exploit. Weber's first assignment had been to monitor Soviet participation in international physics conferences, identifying researchers who might have knowledge of weapons programs and assessing the technological capabilities revealed in their scientific presentations. But as his academic career progressed and he secured a position at CERN, his intelligence value increased exponentially. CERN's unique position in the scientific world made it an ideal platform for intelligence operations. The organization's multinational membership meant that researchers from dozens of countries worked side by side, sharing not only scientific knowledge but also insights into their home nation's technological capabilities. More importantly, CERN's cutting-edge equipment could be used for analyses that had nothing to do with fundamental physics research. Weber's specialty became the analysis of nuclear weapons technology using particle physics techniques. When NATO intelligence acquired samples of weapons-grade uranium or plutonium through various channels, Weber could determine their origin, purity, and production methods using CERN's mass spectrometers and radiation detectors. His analyses helped NATO understand which countries were developing nuclear weapons, how advanced their programs were, and whether they were receiving assistance from other nuclear powers. The psychological challenge of Weber's double life was immense. By day, he collaborated with colleagues who trusted him completely, sharing their research findings and seeking his advice on complex theoretical problems. Many of these same colleagues came from countries whose nuclear programs he was secretly monitoring. He attended their presentations, socialized at their conferences, and built friendships based on their shared passion for physics, all while gathering intelligence that could be used against their home nations. Weber's most valuable contributions came from his analysis of isotopic signatures in weapons materials. Each nuclear reactor and enrichment facility produced materials with distinctive isotopic ratios that could be identified through precise mass spectrometry. When NATO obtained samples of suspected weapons materials, Weber could determine not only their origin but also the specific techniques used in their production, providing crucial intelligence about foreign nuclear programs. The cover story for these analyses was always plausible. Weber would claim to be studying cosmic ray interactions, primordial nucleosynthesis, or other legitimate physics topics that required similar analytical techniques. His academic publications included genuine scientific discoveries that maintained his reputation in the physics community while concealing his intelligence work. Over 18 years, Weber had analyzed materials from suspected nuclear programs in Iran, North Korea, Pakistan, and several other countries. His work had helped NATO understand the extent of nuclear proliferation, identify cooperation between different weapons programs, and develop strategies for preventing the spread of nuclear technology to terrorist organizations. But Weber's most significant discovery had come not from analyzing foreign weapons materials, but from detecting something unexpected in routine background radiation measurements at CERN itself. The anomaly first appeared in Weber's radiation monitoring data on a Tuesday morning in March 2009. CERN maintained extensive radiation detection systems throughout the facility, both for safety reasons and to monitor background interference that could affect particle physics experiments. Weber regularly reviewed this data as part of his legitimate research into cosmic ray interactions, but on this particular morning, he noticed readings that made no sense from a purely scientific perspective. The radiation signatures suggested the presence of weapons-grade plutonium somewhere within CERN's underground complex, not just trace amounts that might result from medical isotopes or research materials, but quantities significant enough to indicate the presence of an actual nuclear device. Weber's initial reaction was disbelief. CERN was one of the most secure scientific facilities in the world, with multiple layers of security, international oversight, and constant monitoring by both Swiss authorities and the organization's internal security services. The presence of weapons-grade nuclear material would represent either a catastrophic security breach or something far more sinister. But as Weber continued his analysis over the following days, the radiation signatures became more distinct and more troubling. The isotopic ratios matched materials he had previously identified as originating from a Pakistani nuclear facility that had been under NATO surveillance for suspected proliferation activities. More disturbing still, the signature suggested that the material was not static but moving through CERN's tunnel system according to a pattern that corresponded with maintenance schedules and shift changes. Weber realized he was looking at evidence of a smuggling operation that was using CERN's international status and complex infrastructure to move nuclear materials across European borders. The scheme was sophisticated beyond anything NATO intelligence had previously encountered, exploiting the organization's legitimate scientific activities to provide cover for weapons trafficking. The implications were staggering. If hostile actors had infiltrated CERN to this extent, they potentially had access not only to the facility's physical infrastructure but also to its scientific expertise and international connections. The same networks that enabled peaceful scientific collaboration could be used to spread nuclear weapons technology to terrorists or rogue states. Weber faced an immediate dilemma. His NATO handlers had provided him with emergency communication protocols for exactly this kind of discovery, but using them would require him to break cover in ways that might expose his entire operation. More problematically, he couldn't be certain that the smuggling operation didn't involve other NATO intelligence agencies or allied governments who might be using CERN for their own covert purposes. The decision to investigate further came when Weber detected evidence that the nuclear materials were being modified or processed within CERN itself. Spectroscopic analysis suggested that weapons-grade plutonium was being enriched or purified using equipment that could only be found in CERN's specialized laboratories. Someone was not just moving nuclear materials through the facility, they were improving them. Weber began conducting his own covert surveillance operation within CERN, using his access to the facility's security systems and his knowledge of its operational schedules to track the movement of the nuclear materials. The investigation consumed weeks of careful observation, during which Weber maintained his normal academic duties while secretly mapping what appeared to be an extensive conspiracy. The breakthrough came when Weber identified the pattern in the maintenance logs. Certain equipment in CERN's isotope separation laboratories was being used during officially scheduled downtime, with the usage carefully disguised as routine calibration and testing procedures. The timing corresponded perfectly with the radiation signatures Weber had been tracking, confirming that nuclear weapons materials were being processed using CERN's own equipment. More disturbing still, Weber discovered that the operation involved at least 3 CERN employees with access to the most sensitive areas of the facility. These individuals had security clearances that allowed them to move freely throughout the underground complex, legitimate reasons to access isotope separation equipment, and the technical knowledge necessary to conduct sophisticated nuclear processing operations. Weber's surveillance revealed that Dr. Alexander Petrov, a Russian particle physicist working on antimatter research, was coordinating the operation. Petrov had been at CERN for 6 years, during which time he had built a reputation as a brilliant researcher and a valuable collaborator. His work on antiproton storage had led to several breakthrough publications and had earned him the respect of colleagues throughout the international physics community. But Weber's investigation revealed that Petrov was using his antimatter research as cover for nuclear weapons technology development. The techniques for containing and manipulating antimatter had direct applications to nuclear weapons design, and Petrov was apparently sharing this knowledge with unknown parties outside CERN. Weber also identified Dr. Sarah Chen, a Chinese-American physicist working on detector technology, and Dr. Hassan al-Rashid, an Iranian materials scientist, as part of Petrov's network. Both had legitimate scientific reasons for accessing the equipment being used in the smuggling operation, and both had international connections that could facilitate the movement of nuclear materials. The scope of the conspiracy became clear when Weber realized that the 3 scientists were not just processing existing nuclear materials but were actually producing new weapons-grade substances using CERN's particle accelerator. By bombarding certain isotopes with high-energy particle beams, they could transmute elements and create weapons materials that would be virtually impossible to trace to their origin. This represented a completely new form of nuclear proliferation, one that used the world's most advanced scientific equipment to produce untraceable weapons materials under the cover of legitimate physics research. The implications for global security were profound, as the technique could potentially be replicated at other particle physics facilities around the world. Weber knew he had uncovered something that went far beyond his original mission. This was not just intelligence about foreign nuclear programs but evidence of an active threat operating within the heart of Europe's most prestigious scientific institution. The decision to act would require him to abandon 18 years of carefully constructed cover and expose himself to unknown risks from conspirators who had already demonstrated their willingness to operate within one of the world's most secure facilities. The final confirmation came when Weber detected radiation signatures indicating that the conspirators were preparing to remove a significant quantity of weapons-grade material from CERN within the next 72 hours. Weber's decision to break cover came at 0347 hours on a Friday morning, when his radiation detectors showed that the nuclear materials were being moved toward CERN's main entrance complex. He activated the emergency communication protocol that he had hoped never to use, sending an encrypted burst transmission to NATO intelligence through a satellite uplink disguised as routine data from his physics experiments. The response was immediate and terrifying. Within minutes, Weber received confirmation that NATO had been tracking similar smuggling operations at other scientific facilities across Europe, but had been unable to identify the source or the ultimate destination of the nuclear materials. Weber's discovery at CERN represented the missing piece of a puzzle that intelligence agencies had been trying to solve for over 2 years. The radiation signatures Weber had detected matched materials that had subsequently appeared in weapons programs in 3 different countries, suggesting that CERN was being used as a central processing facility for an international nuclear trafficking network. The sophistication of the operation indicated state-level sponsorship, but NATO intelligence had been unable to determine which governments were involved. Weber's NATO handler, operating under the cover identity of Dr. Elizabeth Morrison from the International Atomic Energy Agency, arrived at CERN 6 hours later for what appeared to be a routine inspection of the facility's radiation safety protocols. Her presence provided Weber with a secure communication channel and backup support, but it also increased the risk that the smuggling operation would detect intelligence activity. Morrison's briefing revealed the full scope of what Weber had uncovered. The CERN operation was apparently the hub of a network that included facilities in Russia, China, Iran, and Pakistan, with nuclear materials being processed and distributed through academic and research institutions that provided perfect cover for proliferation activities. The network had been operating for at least 5 years, during which time it had produced weapons-grade material sufficient for dozens of nuclear devices. The immediate priority was to prevent the removal of nuclear materials from CERN, but doing so without exposing Weber's identity or alerting other members of the network required careful coordination. Morrison's team had developed an intervention plan that would appear to be the result of routine security procedures rather than targeted intelligence operations. But as Weber and Morrison finalized their plans, they realized that the conspiracy extended further than they had initially understood. Surveillance of Petrov, Chen, and al-Rashid revealed that they were in communication with individuals outside CERN who appeared to be coordinating the timing of the material transfer with other operations elsewhere in Europe. The intercepted communications suggested that the CERN materials were destined for a meeting point in the Swiss Alps, where they would be transferred to unknown parties for final delivery to their ultimate destination. More alarmingly, the communications indicated that the transfer was part of a larger operation involving multiple nuclear devices that were apparently being assembled simultaneously in different locations. Weber found himself in the unprecedented position of being the only NATO intelligence asset with real-time access to information about what appeared to be an imminent nuclear terrorism plot. His 18 years of careful cover work had been preparing him for exactly this kind of scenario, but the reality was more complex and dangerous than any training exercise had anticipated. The decision to maintain his cover while assisting the intervention required Weber to continue his normal academic duties even as NATO operatives prepared to intercept the nuclear materials. He attended a routine collaboration meeting where he sat across the table from Petrov, Chen, and al-Rashid, listening to their presentations on antimatter research and detector technology while knowing that they were planning to remove weapons-grade nuclear materials from the facility within hours. The psychological pressure was overwhelming. Weber had spent nearly 2 decades building genuine relationships with his CERN colleagues, many of whom he considered friends. The revelation that some of them were involved in nuclear trafficking while others were completely innocent required him to maintain perfect emotional control while his entire understanding of the scientific community was being destroyed. The intervention began at 1430 hours, when Morrison's team initiated what appeared to be a routine expansion of CERN's radiation safety inspection. The inspection provided cover for placing additional sensors throughout the facility and positioning NATO operatives at key locations without alerting the smuggling network. Weber continued his normal schedule, teaching an afternoon seminar on quantum field theory to graduate students while simultaneously monitoring the progress of the operation through encrypted messages embedded in routine scientific data transmissions. The seminar proceeded normally, with students asking questions about particle interactions and symmetry breaking, while Weber provided answers knowing that nuclear weapons materials were being tracked through the tunnels beneath their feet. The crisis escalated when Weber's radiation detectors showed that the nuclear materials were being moved toward an exit point that Morrison's team had not anticipated. The smugglers were apparently using a maintenance tunnel that connected to the Geneva International Airport, providing a direct route for removing materials from Switzerland without passing through normal border controls. Weber found himself forced to abandon his lecture and intercept the smugglers personally, using his knowledge of CERN's tunnel system to reach the airport connection before the materials could be removed. The decision required him to expose his intelligence activities to anyone who might observe his movements, potentially compromising 18 years of cover work. The confrontation occurred in a maintenance tunnel 50 meters below ground, where Weber encountered Petrov and two unknown individuals transferring a lead-lined container that his radiation detectors confirmed contained weapons-grade plutonium. The moment when Petrov recognized Weber in the tunnel, dressed in maintenance coveralls and carrying radiation detection equipment, marked the end of Weber's academic cover and the beginning of an entirely different phase of his life. Weber's identity as a NATO intelligence operative was exposed, but the immediate priority was preventing the nuclear materials from reaching their destination. The confrontation in the tunnel ended with the capture of Petrov and his associates, but it also revealed that the smuggling network was more extensive than NATO had realized and included individuals within CERN's security apparatus who had been facilitating the operation. The capture of the nuclear materials in CERN's maintenance tunnel triggered a cascade of operations across Europe as NATO intelligence moved to dismantle what they now understood to be the most sophisticated nuclear trafficking network in history. Weber found himself at the center of an international crisis that threatened to expose the extent to which academic institutions had been compromised by weapons proliferation activities. Within hours of Petrov's arrest, similar operations were conducted at research facilities in Vienna, Munich, and Stockholm, where NATO agents seized additional nuclear materials and arrested scientists who had been part of the trafficking network. The coordinated raids revealed that the conspiracy involved over 30 researchers across 7 countries, all of whom had been using their legitimate scientific positions to facilitate weapons development. Weber's 18 years of cover were permanently blown, but his expertise made him indispensable to the investigation that followed. His detailed knowledge of CERN's operations and his relationships with researchers throughout the international physics community provided NATO with insights that conventional intelligence gathering could never have achieved. The interrogation of Petrov and his associates revealed the full scope of their operation. The network had been established by a coalition of intelligence services from countries seeking to accelerate their nuclear weapons programs while maintaining plausible deniability. By using prestigious scientific institutions as cover, they had created a proliferation system that was virtually immune to traditional intelligence detection. The techniques developed at CERN for transmuting elements using particle accelerators had been shared with facilities in multiple countries, allowing them to produce weapons-grade materials without maintaining obvious nuclear weapons programs. The isotopic signatures that Weber had initially detected represented a new form of nuclear fingerprinting that could identify the specific particle accelerators used in weapons production. Weber's analysis revealed that the network had produced nuclear materials sufficient for over 40 weapons, most of which had already been distributed to unknown end users. The discovery prompted a global effort to locate and secure these materials, with Weber's expertise in isotopic analysis playing a crucial role in tracing their movements. But the investigation also revealed uncomfortable truths about the vulnerability of the international scientific community to infiltration by hostile intelligence services. The same openness and collaboration that made scientific research possible also made it susceptible to exploitation by those seeking to acquire weapons technology. Weber's transition from academic physicist to acknowledged intelligence operative required him to testify before parliamentary committees in multiple countries, explaining how the trafficking network had operated and recommending changes to security procedures at research institutions. His testimony led to significant reforms in the oversight of international scientific collaborations and the monitoring of dual-use research that could contribute to weapons development. The personal cost of Weber's exposure was enormous. His academic career was effectively ended, as his identity as an intelligence operative made it impossible for him to return to normal scientific work. Many of his former colleagues felt betrayed by his deception, regardless of the importance of his intelligence mission. Some questioned whether his scientific contributions had been genuine or merely cover for espionage activities. Weber's relationship with the international physics community became complicated by the knowledge that his years of collaboration had been conducted under false pretenses. Colleagues who had shared their research findings with him now wondered whether their work had been used for intelligence purposes. Students who had studied under him questioned whether their education had been influenced by his hidden agenda. The revelation of Weber's true identity also complicated NATO's future intelligence operations within the scientific community. The exposure of such a long-term, high-level operative made other researchers suspicious of potential intelligence activities and reduced the effectiveness of academic cover for intelligence gathering. But Weber's work had also demonstrated the crucial importance of maintaining intelligence capabilities within the scientific community. The nuclear trafficking network he had exposed represented a threat that conventional intelligence services could never have detected or understood. The technical expertise required to recognize the significance of isotopic signatures and particle accelerator modifications was only available within the scientific community itself. NATO's response was to develop new approaches to scientific intelligence that balanced the need for security with respect for academic freedom and international collaboration. Weber became involved in designing these new systems, using his experience to develop protocols that could detect threats without unnecessarily compromising legitimate research activities. The legal proceedings against the trafficking network extended over several years, with Weber serving as a key witness in trials conducted in multiple countries. His testimony revealed the sophisticated methods used by the conspirators and demonstrated the global scope of their activities. The prosecutions resulted in lengthy prison sentences for the network's leaders and significant changes to international law governing dual-use research. Weber's post-exposure career involved consulting work for intelligence agencies and international organizations seeking to improve security at research facilities. His unique perspective as both a genuine scientist and an experienced intelligence operative made him valuable for developing systems that could protect against future infiltration while preserving the openness necessary for scientific progress. In the aftermath of the CERN trafficking network's exposure, Marcus Weber found himself in the unique position of being a bridge between two worlds that had traditionally operated in isolation from each other. His 20 years of experience as both a practicing physicist and a deep-cover intelligence operative gave him insights that proved invaluable for developing new approaches to scientific security. Weber's first assignment in his acknowledged role was to conduct a comprehensive review of security vulnerabilities at major research institutions throughout Europe and North America. His analysis revealed that the CERN network had been just one element of a much larger pattern of infiltration that had affected dozens of facilities involved in dual-use research. The review led to the establishment of new international protocols for monitoring research activities that could contribute to weapons development. Weber helped design systems that could identify suspicious patterns in equipment usage, personnel access, and research collaborations without impeding legitimate scientific work. His recommendations were adopted by research institutions worldwide and became the foundation for a new field of scientific security. Weber's work also contributed to changes in how intelligence agencies approached the scientific community. Rather than relying solely on deep-cover operatives like himself, intelligence services began developing more transparent relationships with researchers who were willing to report suspicious activities in exchange for security briefings about potential threats. The transition from covert operative to acknowledged consultant was psychologically challenging for Weber. After 20 years of maintaining false identities and concealing his true work, he struggled with the openness required by his new role. The skills that had made him successful as an undercover agent, compartmentalization, emotional control, and the ability to maintain multiple personas, were less useful in his new position. Weber's relationship with the international physics community evolved slowly over the years following his exposure. Many of his former colleagues eventually came to understand that his intelligence work had been motivated by genuine concern for preventing nuclear proliferation rather than by personal ambition or political ideology. His scientific contributions, which had always been legitimate even if conducted undercover, continued to be cited and built upon by other researchers. Some of Weber's former colleagues became valuable allies in developing new security protocols, recognizing that the threat he had uncovered was real and required ongoing vigilance. The collaboration between intelligence professionals and scientists that Weber represented became a model for addressing other dual-use research challenges in fields such as biotechnology and artificial intelligence. Weber's personal life was profoundly affected by his exposure and the end of his covert career. The isolation required by deep-cover work had prevented him from forming lasting personal relationships, and the transition to acknowledged intelligence work did not immediately resolve this challenge. He struggled with questions about which aspects of his identity were genuine and which had been constructs created for operational purposes. The nuclear materials seized from the CERN network were eventually reprocessed for peaceful uses, with Weber overseeing the technical aspects of ensuring that weapons-grade materials were permanently converted to forms unsuitable for weapons applications. This work provided a sense of closure for his intelligence career, as the materials he had spent years tracking were finally put beyond the reach of those who would misuse them. Weber's memoir, published in 2015 under heavy security review, became an influential account of the challenges faced by intelligence operatives working within academic institutions. The book provided insights into the psychological demands of maintaining long-term cover identities while contributing to legitimate scientific research. It also highlighted the importance of protecting scientific openness while maintaining security against those who would exploit research for harmful purposes. The reforms that resulted from Weber's discoveries led to the prevention of several additional nuclear trafficking attempts, with research institutions worldwide implementing monitoring systems based on his recommendations. His work demonstrated that effective security could be maintained without sacrificing the international collaboration that makes scientific progress possible. In 2018, Weber was awarded the NATO Meritorious Service Medal for his contributions to preventing nuclear proliferation, though the ceremony was conducted in private due to the classified nature of much of his work. The award recognized not only his intelligence achievements but also his efforts to develop new approaches to scientific security that respected both national security needs and academic freedom. Weber's legacy extends beyond his specific achievements in exposing the CERN trafficking network. His career demonstrated the possibility of maintaining genuine scientific expertise while conducting intelligence operations, proving that the two roles could be complementary rather than contradictory. His approach influenced how intelligence agencies recruit and train operatives for assignments requiring technical expertise. Today, the security protocols developed based on Weber's recommendations are standard at research institutions worldwide. His work created a new model for scientific security that balances openness with vigilance, allowing legitimate research to proceed while maintaining protection against those who would exploit scientific knowledge for harmful purposes. Weber's story reminds us that some of the most important intelligence work is conducted not by traditional spies but by individuals who use their professional expertise to detect threats that conventional intelligence methods cannot identify. His 20 years of dual identity demonstrated that effective counterproliferation sometimes requires operatives who can function as both scientists and intelligence professionals. The corridors of CERN continue to echo with the footsteps of scientists from around the world, pursuing humanity's greatest questions about the nature of reality itself. The Large Hadron Collider still accelerates particles to extraordinary energies, creating conditions that briefly mirror the first moments of the universe. But the legacy of Marcus Weber's discovery serves as a constant reminder that even the most noble scientific endeavors must be protected from those who would exploit them for destructive purposes. Weber's 20-year mission at CERN represents one of the longest and most successful deep-cover intelligence operations in modern history. His ability to maintain genuine scientific expertise while conducting crucial intelligence work demonstrated that the two roles, far from being contradictory, could be mutually reinforcing when performed by individuals with the right combination of skills and dedication. The nuclear trafficking network that Weber exposed was prevented from distributing materials for dozens of potential weapons, but perhaps more importantly, his discovery led to fundamental changes in how the international community approaches the security of dual-use research. The protocols he helped develop continue to protect research institutions worldwide while preserving the openness that makes scientific collaboration possible. Weber's story illustrates the complex relationship between science and security in an era when scientific knowledge can be used for both beneficial and harmful purposes. His career required him to navigate the tension between the scientific community's commitment to open collaboration and the security community's need to prevent the proliferation of dangerous technologies. The personal cost of Weber's mission was enormous: 20 years of false identity, the inability to form lasting personal relationships, and the ultimate sacrifice of his academic career for the greater good of preventing nuclear terrorism. His dedication to his mission, despite these costs, exemplifies the kind of service that protects society from threats that most people never know existed. The reforms that resulted from Weber's work have made the world safer by creating systems that can detect and prevent the exploitation of scientific research for weapons development. His legacy demonstrates that effective security requires not just traditional intelligence methods but also the involvement of experts who understand the technical aspects of emerging threats. Today, as new technologies emerge with the potential for both beneficial and harmful applications, Weber's approach provides a model for how intelligence agencies and scientific institutions can work together to maximize benefits while minimizing risks. His career showed that protecting scientific freedom sometimes requires acknowledging and addressing the ways that freedom can be exploited by those with malicious intent. Weber's 20 years at CERN remind us that some of history's most important intelligence work is conducted by individuals whose greatest achievements must remain hidden from those they protect. His dual identity as physicist and intelligence operative allowed him to detect and prevent threats that conventional security measures could never have identified. The particles that collide in CERN's tunnels reveal fundamental truths about the universe, but Weber's mission revealed fundamental truths about the challenges of protecting scientific knowledge from those who would misuse it. His story demonstrates that preserving the benefits of scientific collaboration sometimes requires the quiet vigilance of individuals willing to sacrifice their public identity for the greater good. In an age when scientific research increasingly has implications for global security, Weber's legacy provides a framework for balancing openness with protection, collaboration with vigilance, and scientific freedom with security responsibility. His career proved that these seemingly contradictory goals can be achieved by individuals with the expertise and dedication to serve both science and security simultaneously. The God particle that physicists sought in CERN's tunnels represents humanity's quest to understand the fundamental nature of reality. Weber's mission represented a parallel quest to understand and prevent the fundamental threats that could destroy the civilization capable of such scientific achievements. Both quests required patience, precision, and an unwavering commitment to truth. Have you ever wondered about the hidden guardians who protect scientific research from those who would exploit it? Have you known someone whose greatest service was conducted in complete secrecy? Share their story in the comments below. Thank you for watching Silent Legends. If this story moved you, subscribe and help us honor those who were never meant to be forgotten but whose courage deserves to be remembered.